In this video, I'm going to share with you how I have personally mounted the Insta360 cameras, including a Frankenstein hack that enabled me to get some of the best cycling footage I have ever taken. I'll also share with you how I get stats on my screen, which has recently become easier than ever. Like literally anyone can do it, even my dad, without having to pull out a laptop and spend hours. It's literally minutes on your phone. Although we're not quite there yet with desktop, and I'll explain what I'm talking about as we go through this video, and I'm really hoping Insta360 might be watching and they can improve or enhance their desktop version. And I'll also share some of the nuances I've found with using these cameras and mounts over the past 6 to 8 months. What I won't be doing in this video is giving you the technical specs overview. I feel that's been done 100 times before, and I'm sure you can find videos of it on YouTube. But please know before we get into it, timestamps for you below, and this video is sponsored by Insta360, but I would like to point out that I've been doing cycling YouTube now for 6 or so years. Insta360 have reached out a number of times, and I've never been interested in working with them previously in a partnership format because I didn't know where to mount this, because I've always used integrated bars and I've never had suitable attachments for it. I also found in the early days I really liked the concept of the Go, the small camera that you can attach to your bike, but I found the image quality initially, at least with this one, wasn't quite at the level. So I've been a GoPro user for 6 or so years now, until this year, where I feel that Insta360 have definitely come to the party with image quality. They've definitely come to the party with mounts for integrated bars, and also the ease of use for data overlays is now helping me save a lot of time in edits. So I've become a huge fan of Insta360 in 2024. Now, to set the scene for this video, we have 3 cameras in front of us. The one that I'm not going to be talking about today is the AcePro. Not because of the image quality, not because of the features, simply because it's just too much of a brick, like the GoPros. As discussed, I've been using predominantly GoPros over the past 6 years, and I've been using the Mini, which is about 2/3 to half the size of a traditional GoPro, and I've been using this purely to minimize the size. I am already a brick myself, so if I can help it, I don't want to be adding mini bricks to my bike setup, which is probably an oxymoronic statement considering the first camera I'm going to be talking about here is the X4, which is probably the biggest brick of them all. It's coming in at 225 grams versus the AcePro, which comes in at circa 180 grams. However, the footage you can get with this camera is unbelievable. So much so that I'm willing to sacrifice some weight and some brickiness in return for the footage. So during this year, Tour de France time, I went up the Glibia with this camera and my American friend and fellow cycling YouTuber, Mitch Boyer. This is hands down the best cycling footage I have ever captured. How I did it was perhaps in a way this mount has never been used before and certainly goes against its intended use, which is more so designed to wrap around your standard handlebars, but these mounts do not seem to work with integrated aero bars, which is the only bars I use. However, as you can see here, the attachment has a 3-pronged adapter. So what I did was screw up the bar attachment pieces so they were not flapping around, and then attach the 3-pronged adapter to your typical computer mount that has an area underneath to attach bike computers and lights, etc. I attached the Insta360 bar mount here, did everything up super tight, and attached the Insta360 camera out in front and ran it in 8K mode in all standard video settings, and that is the footage you can see here. Amazing footage, completely stock out of the camera. In fact, Mitch was also running his Insta360 X4 on his chest mount, and I know he plays around with his settings. And no offense, Mitch, but I reckon the out-of-the-box settings were better than your settings. Now, just know up front, if you were to use this mount, even if you do up everything super tight, that you will, when hitting bumps and divots at speed, experience a little bit of flex that may move the pole down slightly. As you can see here, where I am descending the Glibia, I've hit a few bumps at speed and I'm pulling the Insta360 pole, which you can't even see given the camera smarts built in, up ever so slightly. Now I know what some of you might be saying. Cam, you absolute imbecile. Insta360 already have a mount that solves the issue with integrated bars, which is this one here. A computer mount that you install like any other computer mount on the market, with the exception of it being a bit heavier and a little bit girthier than your typical mount. And at the tip of the mount, you can easily screw in the Insta360. Well, this mount wasn't available when I went to the Tour de France earlier this year, 2024. It's only recently come to market. And I felt that Frankenstein setup was worth mentioning because, in my opinion, I reckon it's the most superior, versatile footage you can get while road cycling, but it has limitations. Like, you've got a big pole sticking out from the front of your bike. That isn't overly practical when you're rocking up to group rides and bunch rides. People are going to look at you a little bit strangely. Very similar to the mount that you can get with the rear footage that goes from the back of your bike. Once again, a little bit difficult to rock up to your local bunch or group ride with that, and I'm not one to get arse shots of blokes. So that mount will never be for me. The other thing about this front setup is that it flexes a little, so depending on the road conditions, maybe there's some safety considerations. But for the right scenario, it is amazing. But I think practically moving forward, now this is available, I'm going to be sticking with this one, which, as you can see, provides incredible 360 footage as shown in my local group ride, a way that's more discreet. I should note that I have shot this footage in 5.7K, not 8K like the Galibia footage, so you can see the quality differences for yourself. Note that 8K footage on an Insta360 camera that's getting 360 degrees, once you get your shot, will be more like 4K, and 5.7K, once you get your shot, will be more like 2K, maybe even 1080 if you start cropping in. The only two downsides that I've found with using this mount so far are as follows. Number one, the view is a little lower and perhaps gives you a bit less flexibility. And at times on harsh chip-sealed roads, the mount does vibrate a bit. That almost deceivingly makes you think the camera footage isn't well stabilized, but it's actually the attachment that's creating this perception from what I can tell, not the image quality itself. But it's a consideration depending on your road quality. Before we talk about stats, where does this little bad boy come in to play? This has to be the most discreet, lightweight, non-brick style cycling camera you will find, and it now shoots in a high quality 4K image, so you can stick it underneath your mount. Or Insta360 have created this magnet attachment which can go on your chest, meaning you can move the angle around to get the shot you're after. The disadvantage of running this camera over the X4 is you're not getting the 360 degree field of view. You're getting one shot wherever you're pointing the camera. When you're running it in this mode, so the mini mode, you're going to get roughly at 4K 30 frames, 32 minutes in one hit, versus this, they say you can get up to 75 minutes in 8K if the camera doesn't overheat first. So let's just call it an hour. However, if you bring the pod back into play, you're now going to get around 2 hours of non-stop footage at 4K 30 frames, which is pretty good. I know what a lot of cycling YouTubers do is they attach it to their chest and they stick this in their pocket. And if they're on a long ride or it's a long race, what they'll do is, obviously you've got to be thinking about this while you're on your long ride or your long race, which is another kettle of fish, but you can pull this out, stick it in here, and you can charge it for a period of time, and then you can pull it out and stick it back onto your chest. So once you've collected your footage on either of your cameras, how do you get your stats? Now I'm going to break this into two parts. Number one for the general Joe Blow, and number two for the video enthusiast. So if you're the general Joe Blow and you're thinking, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting some footage, sticking it on Instagram or TikTok, or maybe sending it to my local WhatsApp group after the ride, I would be going with this camera right here, simply because it's discreet, it's not in your face, it's easy to use, and it's about $100 cheaper as it stands today than the X4. So once you've got your footage, just be aware that if you want social vertical footage, the camera goes up this way. And if you want YouTube style landscape footage, the camera goes this way. Having said that, you can put this camera into something called free frame mode, which enables you to pick the dimensions you want after you've shot. However, just be aware that the file size is going to be more significant when you do that. And also some people report you will lose some image quality, but not a lot, and for the general Joe Blow, I don't think it's going to matter. Once you've recorded the ride, you can get home and open up the Insta360 app, which you'll need to download on your phone. You won't have to download the full file. You simply sync or connect your Insta360 app to the device, and then you can pick from the footage using the editing tool, which is very easy. You can cut the section of ride you want, and then assuming you're running a Garmin or a Chorus, click on connect to the app and it will find your ride automatically. If you feel the stats aren't quite perfectly aligned with your ride, you can adjust with ease here, although I've had no issues to date, and you can then pick your preferred stats overlay, move things around, and then download the selected clip with the overlays to your phone. You've now got a super cool piece of content you've captured on this device, on your phone. You can share it around. It's literally taken you minutes after you get back from your local group ride. Now, the super frustrating thing for me is creating YouTube videos. I want a bit more flexibility with the stats and what I can do with them. The file sizes that I'm dealing with, I'm not going to do that on a mobile phone. I need to do it on my desktop. And right now, Insta360 desktop version doesn't have the stats and data overlay if you're using a file from a bike computer, which is what we do. I have been told it's coming though. But for now, here's what I do, and we'll use the Mitch Galibia video as an example. So I downloaded the Insta360 X files to my desktop. I then brought those files, which are unique to Insta360. Like, you can't just watch those files straight away. You need to bring them into the Insta360 app first, and then you go through the footage. You get all the angles you want using keyframes as shown here. And the beauty of the 360 is you can basically go wherever you want, including inwards and outwards. Just be aware that some extreme angles may be stitched together. Once I've got all my angles, I then downloaded the file and re-uploaded it to something called Garmin Verb, a stats overlay software. Now, the problem with Garmin Verb is it can still be downloaded, but it is no longer supported. So you will find some bugs with it, like here, where I normally sync the ride data using a map. The map, as you can see, no longer appears, which makes syncing the data difficult. However, it is still doable, and I think you'll still get value out of Shane Miller's tutorial on it, which I'll link to below. Once the ride data is accurately synced, here I can add all the different data overlays I want. I will then export that file, bring it into another editing software I use called Final Cut, add audio and other edits, and that's how I made the Galibia video. A very time-consuming and laborious process, and I am aware there are other softwares out there, like telemetry overlays, but from what I've seen and heard from other YouTubers who use these softwares, it's borderline or just as tedious as using Garmin Verb. So Insta360, if you're out there listening, the ability to add stats in a flexible manner on a desktop, I really hope this gets brought to market ASAP, because it's going to save me a lot of time. If you've gotten value from today's video, please don't forget to give it a like, greatly appreciated. And if you've got any questions about Insta360 and what I'm doing, if I've missed something here, I'll try and get to them below. So feel free to drop a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one.